Good morning from Colombia. The title of today's reflection is Jesus Who. We're going to start with the book of Mark and look at the book of Mark in a bit more detail over the next few weeks. But why the book of Mark? Well, I was one of those kids when at school I'd always choose the shortest book to read, the shortest thing to study. I wasn't a particularly good reader and I didn't particularly enjoy doing it. I envy those people that can devour books day after day after day, but for me, that's not just one of them. So when someone told me to read the gospel, obviously I went for the shortest one there, which happened to be the book of Mark. But generally, I like the book of Mark. Why? Obviously, yes, it is short, but it's a very practical book. It looks more at what Jesus did rather than a lot of his teachings. Don't get me wrong, his teachings are as important as anything else written in the Bible, even more so than a lot, but for me, I like to see the practical things, the practical examples of how Jesus led his life. After all, his life was a perfect example to follow, and I aim to follow him all of my days. So to see how he did it, for me, was really important. It's an action-packed book. It only has 16 chapters. So who was Mark? Well, we think that Mark was an associate of Paul and probably a disciple of Peter. It's the oldest gospel written, but we're going to look at verse 1 today. And it says this, in Mark chapter 1 verse 1, "The beginning of the gospel is about Jesus Christ, the Son of God." Now in my Bible, it has a little footnote here and it says that some manuscripts do not have the words Son of God. When Mark was written, people would have certainly knew who this Jesus Christ was. But for the beginning of this book, that's a very, very big statement. Who was this man? Who was this Jesus Christ? And it's an answer that we need to think about today. What's our answer to that question? Was he a good teacher? Many people believe he was a moral man. Some people just think he might have been crazy. Or was he actually the Son of God, to which Mark alludes to in this first chapter? As we look at Mark and as we look at the way that Jesus lived his life, keep this question in mind. Who was this Jesus Christ? If he was just a good teacher and a moral man, then sure, he's a good example for us to follow. But if he was actually the Son of God, then that has huge implications on our lives and everyone else's lives who lives in the world today. For me, I made my decision a long time ago that Jesus was the Son of God. And for Mark, he is making this big statement here. Do you know what? It's very hard to make this decision about who Jesus was unless we actually pick up the Bible and read about him. Jesus was an incredible teacher, yes. Jesus was a very moral man, yes. It says that in him there was no sin. Jesus was also the Son of God. That's my belief, and that's something that we need to decide. But if that was, and if that is true, that Jesus truly is the Son of God, then like I say, that has big implications on us as we live our lives today. So we're going to look at this book in a little bit more detail over the next few weeks. But my first question to you is this. Was Jesus Christ really the Son of God? Who do you really think he was? There's evidence outside of the Bible. More evidence, in fact, that he existed than Julius Caesar existed himself. So we know he was a man. We know he lived. We know he was born and we know he walked this world. But we're going to look at exactly how he lived his life and what he did while he was here over these next few weeks. And I want you to keep this question in mind. Who really was him? And do I let that influence my life every day that I live? God bless you all.